Good morning. Today is Wednesday, October 26, 2022. I'm Sharon Tyus, the Chair of Streets, Traffic, and Refuse Committee for the Board of Aldermen. And this meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Vaquero.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Present.
Alderwoman Peel. Alderman Bosley. I'm sorry. Chair Tyus.
Present.
Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Peel. We have 4 present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. The next order on the agenda is the board bills. Approval of the minutes of Wednesday, September 21st, 2022. I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, September 21st, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion at all? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Vaquero.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Bosley. Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel. Chair Tyus.
Aye.
Alderman Boyd. I'm sorry, Alderman Bosley.
You're getting the B's mixed up. huh, Tracy?
Alderman Peel. We have 4 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion, and the minutes of September 21st, 2022 have been approved. We're going to go a little bit out of order for the board bills, if people are here, because Mr. Alderman Page has a lot of people. Is Alderwoman Middlebrook is here?
Yeah, she here.
Alderwoman?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I don't want to be ma'am now. I want to be 25. Okay, do you have any people to speak for your board bill?
No, ma'am, I don't.
That's fine. A previous Alderman Bosley used to say when he was the chair, is it in your ward? If it's in your ward and you want it, I'm with it. So
That works for me.
That was his saying every time. Okay, so that's fine. We're going to start with your board bill because it'll be faster, and that is Board Bill 96 for the committee. And it's Madam Clerk, would you please read the introduction? Madam Clerk.
I got you. Board Bill number 96, introduced by Alderwoman Lisa Middlebrook, pursuant to ordinance number 70333. I'm sorry, pursuant to ordinance number 70333 as amended by ordinance number 71394, and ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 8500 block of Park Lane between railroad tracks and Schweitzer Avenue.
Okay. Alderwoman Middlebrook, you are recognized to present Board Bill 96.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. This board bill is to put speed humps onto the 8500 block of Park Lane. The residents did the work. They got a petition started. They got every thing that they needed signed, and they would like speed humps to try to slow some of the speeding that is going on in that area. Pretty simple, and that's pretty much all that I have.
Okay, I have a question. This is a residential street, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's start. Does anybody on the committee have any questions? There is a map attached. So this is my recommendation, Miss Speed Hump Queen. Don't let you put 1 or 2 down. Put 4 or 5 down. Put them when they first start and when they end. That way, when they hit that first speed bump, they know their speed humps rather on that street. So if you get a chance, you can drive down some of my streets in the 4900 or over in Mark Twain. And even if it's 1 block, I put at least like 4 or 5 speed humps. And it has cut out. This is the first summer ever I did not get pictures of people's cars being knocked into the front yard or people getting hit. So if you're going to put them down, add a few more. because some people just put one or two and they hit that first one, then they speed back up because they seem to be upset that you put a speed hump down. And then they don't hit another one for a while. But if you put them so that they're pretty evenly spaced, after a while, they know that's a street not to go down. So
Okay.
that's just my suggestion, okay?
Thank you for that. I learn every day. Thank you so much.
All right. There are no questions from any of the rest of the committee and comments? You are recognized to close on Board Bill 96, Alderwoman Middlebrook.
Thank you. I just asked for your support for this. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion that Board Bill number 96 be passed out with a do pass recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Can't do previous roll.
okay, because the vice chair just got
Objection.
here, we need to have a roll call. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Vaquero,
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Bosley,
Aye.
Alderwoman Switzer,
Aye.
Alderwoman Peel. We have 4 aye vote. I'm sorry.
Can I vote?
Chair, I'm so sorry, Chair. Diane.
I'm gonna start to take this personal, okay?
I think she kind of confused today, Chair.
But I've been
Five
serving with her the longest than all of you. I'm gonna start to take this personal, okay?
I know. I'm like, she is confused.
All right. How many aye votes do we have?
5.
By your vote, you've sustained the motion and Board Bill 96 is passed out with a do pass recommendation.
Thank
Okay.
you.
The next thing we have is, I think it's Alderwoman, Alderwoman Boyd, you're on the committee, so we're gonna get you toward the end too. Is Alderwoman Evans here? Alderwoman Evans,
No, Alderwoman Evans is not present.
okay. What about Alderwoman Clark Hubbard?
No, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard is not present.
Now, I know I sent out CCs to everybody so they would know that their bills are on the committee. So, all right, so let's get, because Alderwoman Boyd, yours is kind of complicated too, and Alderman Vaccaro is not that complicated. So we'll do Alderman Vaccaro next. Which is
Okay.
Board Bill 106. Madam Clerk, would you read the introduction?
Board Bill number 106, introduced by Alderman Joseph Vaccaro, pursuant to ordinance number 70333 as amended by ordinance number 71394. An ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 6600 block of Filer Avenue between the intersections of Filer Avenue and Ivanhoe Avenue and Filer Avenue and Watson Road, and on the 6300 block of Arthur Avenue between the intersections of Arthur Avenue and Watson Road and Arthur Avenue and Hampton Avenue.
Alderman Vaccaro, you are authorized to present Board Bill 106 before the committee.
It's again, just a simple bill. It's actually thanks to you for putting this in place so we can actually get these done, but it's a simple speed hump bill. The neighbors want it, so I'm gonna do it. If I have anyone ask questions, I'll answer them.
These are residential streets, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else on the committee have any questions? Anyone not on the committee that's here, that's a member of the board, I'm sorry, have any questions? Because I just saw that we have Alderwoman Howard here. No one not on the committee have any questions? Okay, you're authorized to close Board Bill 106, Alderman Vaccaro.
I would just ask for your favorable consideration of Board Bill 106.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion that Board Bill 106 be passed out with a do pass recommendation.
So
So
moved.
move.
Second.
Previous roll.
We have a motion, a second, a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 106 is passed out with a do pass recommendation. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Alderwoman Boyd, you are next. This is moving right along. Alderwoman Boyd has a variety of speed humps, and she has amendment to her Boyd bill. So I want to make sure you all had everything that went with Alderwoman Boyd's board bill, which is board bill 100. Then she has an amendment to it. She has a marked copy and a clean copy. You are really doing a good job with this. And
I
then
had a
she
good
has
teacher.
maps for everything. This is what I really love right here, okay?
I had a great teacher.
Well, whoever she is. That's great. Madam Clerk, would you read Board Bill 100, please?
Pursuant to ordinance number 70333 as amended by ordinance number 71394. An ordinance directing the director of streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 6,000 block of Schulte Avenue between the intersections of Schulte Avenue and Park Lane and Schulte Avenue and Mimica Avenue, and on the 5,400 block of Genevieve Avenue between the intersections of Genevieve Avenue and Thekla Avenue and Genevieve Avenue and Horny Avenue, and on the 5,600 and 5,700 blocks of Paplin Avenue between the intersections of Paplin Avenue and the east-west alleyway that is north of the 6,000 block of Paplin Avenue and Paplin Avenue and West Florissant Avenue, and on the 5,900 block of Horny Avenue between the intersections of Horny Avenue and Park Lane and Horny Avenue and Mimica Avenue, and on the 5,500, 5,600 block of Mimica Avenue between the intersections of Mimica Avenue and Horny Avenue and Mimica Avenue and Lenora Avenue.
Okay, and since we have the amendment, Alderwoman, we're gonna go ahead and take up the amendment so that we can have that before us, okay?
Okay,
Okay, so we have amendment, how many, we have, we have 1, 2, there are amendments, it's not a, okay, so why don't you tell us then about the original board bill, and then we'll go through each amendment, because I thought it was a committee substitute, and we will do the amendments one at a time, and I think it is 2 amendments, okay?
okay, and so thank you, Madam Chair and the Streets Committee for listening to Board Bill 100. The amendment for one was for 4,700 Genevieve. We amended to put in that block and put the number of speed bumps in that block for the 4,700 Genevieve. And Ms. Clerk, could you tell me the other amendment because I can't see.
Wait a minute, so you said one of them was for the 4,700 block of Genevieve?
That was an amendment that we added to that bill.
Wait, okay, let me see here. I see 55 and 5,600 block of Mimica.
Yeah,
And let's see, and Mimica Avenue and West Florissant, Mimica and Lenora.
I don't see the 47. You don't see the 47, Genevieve?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
It's at the bottom. It's at
Where
the
is it?
bottom
at the
of the-
bottom of, okay.
of the second
Oh,
amendment.
it's on page, it's number 6.
Yes,
4 speed humps shall be installed in the 4,700 block of Genevieve Avenue between the intersection of Genevieve Avenue and Prange Avenue and Genevieve Avenue and Bircher. Okay,
Yes, ma'am. And then the one for Mimica, that was the amendment to add speed bumps to that block. And what the chair of the street committee has suggested, that's what I had put in. I put locations for each speed bumps, and we wanted to add 6 more speed bumps to that block.
okay. All right, so let's go and make sure we have right where it's going to be amended at. Let's start from the top.
Okay.
Board Bill, page 2, line 2. So we're gonna take page 2, line 1 to page 2, line 2, 5,500 and 5,600 block of Mimica between the intersection of Mimica and Harney and Mimica and Lenora,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? So we're going to change it to and West Florissant. Okay, so it's going to be changed from 5,100 to 5,700 block of Mimica and take out 55 and 56. between the intersection Mimica Avenue and West Florissant.
Right.
And Mimica and Lillian.
Right.
Okay, that's the First Amendment. Okay, we're gonna take them one at a time. So I'd entertain a motion that we amend Board Bill. Well, this 100 on page 2, line 1, to read 5,500 and 5,600 of Mimica Avenue between intersections of Mimica Avenue and Harney Avenue, and Mimica Avenue and Lenore Avenue.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd entertain a
So
motion.
moved. Second and previous roll.
We have a motion, a second, and a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, the First Amendment has been passed to Board Bill 100. Okay, the Second Amendment to Board Bill 100 says we're going to amend said Board Bill, page 2, line 13. Page 2, line 15. As follows. We're going to scratch out 7 additional speed humps shall be installed at 5,600 Mimica, starting at West Florissant, at Lenore and Schulte, Harney, Thekla, Sherry, and Mimica. That's all going to be scratched out. And we're going to insert 7 speed humps shall be installed on the 5,000 to 5,700 block of Mimica Avenue, 1 speed hump between the intersection of Mimica Avenue and West Florissant Avenue, and Mimica and Lenore Avenue, 1 speed hump between the intersection of Mimica and Lenore, Mimica Avenue and Schulte Avenue, 1 speed hump between the intersection of Mimica Avenue and Schulte Avenue, and Mimica Avenue and Harney Avenue, 1 speed hump between the intersections of Mimica and Harney, Mimica and Thekla, 1 speed hump between the intersections of Mimica Avenue and Thekla Avenue, Mimica Avenue and Sherry Avenue, 1 speed hump between the intersection of Mimica Avenue and Sherry Avenue, and Mimica Avenue and Laura Avenue, and 1 speed hump between the intersection of Mimica Avenue and Laura Avenue, and Mimica Avenue and Lillian Avenue. And my question is, 6 a separate amendment, or is part of that amendment? The last one where it says 4 speed humps shall be installed in the 4,700 block of Genevieve. Is that separate then from what?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Mhm.
Okay. So I'm gonna call that amendment number 3. Okay, so I'd entertain a motion that amendment number 2 to Board Bill 100 be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
Got a motion, a second, and call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, amendment number 2 to Board Bill 100 is approved. So the last amendment we have, which I'll call 3, is 4 speed humps shall be installed on the 4,700 block of Genevieve Avenue between the intersection of Genevieve Avenue and Prange Avenue and Genevieve Avenue and Bircher. And where should should that be inserted after the last amendment, Alderwoman?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna put in here, insert. I need you to put this in the Board Bill, Madam Clerk. Insert amendment number 3. So whatever that last line comes out to be, once we put that full amendment in before, then we'll start a new line. I don't know if it'll be 16, 17, or whatever it is, okay? You understand what I'm saying? Because that full amendment before, I don't know how many lines it's gonna take up.
So
Let me-
noted.
Wait a minute, let me see. She did give us a marked copy, so maybe this will tell us. Okay. The marked copy, let's see, clean copy, let's use that. So that makes, and that makes it be pushed over to the 6th, to the page 3 of 3. So it's gonna be inserted on page 3 of 3. So if you look at the clean copy, the 4 speed humps. You see, I don't know if you see it, but she has a clean copy, which is good.
I have
So
it.
that means that it starts on line 3 of page 3. And that's where we're gonna insert 4 speed humps shall be installed on the 4700 block of Genevieve,
So noted.
okay? And we're gonna just call that Amendment 3. Okay? Everybody understand what we're doing? Okay. All right, I'd entertain a motion to accept amendment number 3 to Board Bill 100, which would put 4 speed humps to be installed in the 4700 block of Genevieve between the intersection of Genevieve and Prange Avenue and Genevieve and Bircher, and it would be inserted on page 3, line 3.
So move.
Second and previous roll.
Have a motion, a second, and a call for previous roll. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none. Amendment number 3 has been amended, has amended Board Bill number 100. And so now we're gonna go and pass the full board bill with all the amendments. So I'd entertain a motion, unless you want to close, that we pass Board Bill 100 with 3 amendments that we've approved with a do pass recommendation. Do you have any objections to that, Alderwoman Boyd?
No, ma'am, I thank you very much.
So move.
I guess it's actually, I make a motion, we approve Board Bill 100 as amended. I think would
Yes.
be the proper.
Correct.
So I'll make that motion.
We need a second.
And
Second,
previous roll.
Okay, we have a motion that Board Bill number 100 as amended should be passed out with a do pass recommendation. And we have a second. We have a call for previous roll. Is there any objections to previous roll? Hearing none.
Yes. Yes, I was not included in that previous row. I'm sorry.
Have you're not on the committee, are you?
Right, yeah, she.
Oh,
Yes,
no,
she's
you're
not.
right. I'm sorry.
That's all-
Excuse me.
That's all right. All right, so hear no objection from the committee members. Board Bill 100 as amended is passed out with a do pass recommendation. And you got here just in time, Alderwoman, because we had called you to have your board bill heard. And so we'll go back because yours was pretty easy, a stop sign. And I see Alderwoman Clark Hubbard has gotten here. Okay, let's go back to, what was that board bill? 103.
Board Bill number 103, introduced by Alderwoman Gwendolyn Evans. An ordinance establishing a 4-way stop sign at the intersection of St. Louis Avenue and Bishop P.L. Scott Avenue, regulating all traffic traveling eastbound and westbound of St. Louis Avenue at the intersection of St. Louis Avenue and Bishop P.L. Scott Avenue, and all traffic traveling northbound and southbound on Bishop P.L. Scott Avenue at the intersection of St. Louis Avenue and Bishop P.L. Scott Avenue, and containing an emergency clause.
Alderwoman Evans, you are recognized to present Board Bill 103 before the committee.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. It's the 4-way stop sign at the intersection of St. Louis Avenue and Bishop Scott. So you're asking us to do a do pass recommendation of that
Yes,
stop
I'm
sign.
asking for a favorable do pass representation
From the committee.
from the committee for Board Bill 103.
3. Yes, ma'am. Okay, is there any of the committee members who have any questions? She does have a map, which I love. I know this spot really well, so I didn't need a map, but are there any questions from committee members?
No, I love speed, I love stop signs. I'm the king.
Joe Vaccaro is going to vote against your bill because he doesn't want anybody to have stop signs except for in the Hill. If you're not in the Hill area, that area that's in the 23rd Ward, he tends to get really gruffy about that. So
Yeah, I'm trying to be the king of stop signs, apparently. No questions here, I'm sorry.
is there any member of the Board of Aldermen who's not on the committee who has questions? Hearing none, you are authorized to close on Board Bill 103, which is just saying, yeah, you renew your request for a favorable pass, do pass recommendation?
Yes, Alder, yes, Madam Chair, I renew my request for
A do pass
favorable,
recommendation of Board Bill 103.
do pass recommendation of Board Bill 103.
I'd entertain a motion that we pass Board Bill 103 out with a do pass recommendation.
So
So
moved.
moved.
I'll second either way, previous role.
Previous row.
Okay, so what I heard was Alderman from the third, my vice chair was the motion. Alderman from the 23rd was second, and then Alderwoman from the 27th is previous role. Any objections to previous role? Hearing none. Board Bill 103 is passed out with a do pass recommendation. Okay, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. We were trying to get you guys out of here because the
Board Bill number 110, introduced by Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard. Pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 5800 block, 5900 block, and 60,000 block of Bartmer Avenue between the intersections of Bartmer Avenue and Goodfellow Avenue, and Bartmer Avenue and Hodiamont Avenue, and on the 300, 400, 500, and 600 blocks of Clara Avenue between the intersections of Clara Avenue and Pershing Avenue and Clara Avenue and Delmar Boulevard.
I think we may have lost the chairwoman.
Hey, sir, camera off.
I don't see her.
She may have lost connection. Let me try reaching her. Hold on one moment.
Okay.
She should be joining us shortly. She lost connection.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know why my desktop is not working. Can people hear me all right? I'm on my iPad now.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Oh, okay. All right. Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard. Let's see here. We're gonna do your bill, which is 110. And you did have some speakers, I believe. Hello?
No.
You didn't have any?
No, ma'am.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard? Who are you? You cannot be Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Can you
Who is
hear
this
me?
pretending to be Clark Hubbard? Shall we? I can hear you.
No.
I just
I
want to know
know.
who is pretending to be Alderwoman Clark
I know,
Hubbard.
right?
That she
I
always brings
know.
a lot of people.
Yes, I do. Let me
Okay, well,
explain.
then,
Let me. I'll explain really quickly. That's
Okay.
5,800 through the 6,000 block of Bartmer. That came directly from constituents. So that block, all 3 blocks are in consensus. So I told them, of course, that I could carry this for them. And then the 300 through 600 blocks of Clara, that came directly from constituents, a petition, as well as out of our the Bolivar Place SBD meeting that we have every month, came out of that meeting. But we are going to have an additional community meeting. So with that, I told them again that I would carry it this far, and then if anything else came out that we need to change, we would. But thank you, because you're right. I would have normally had a number of speakers here.
I'm just giving you a hard time. You don't have to bring speakers. I'm sorry. I'm just giving you a hard time. Board Bill 110, Madam Clerk, would you please read the introduction?
Board Bill number 110, introduced by Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard pursuant to ordinance number 70333 as amended by ordinance number 71394. An ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 5800, 5900, and 6,000 blocks of Bartmer Avenue between the intersection of Bartmer Avenue and Goodfellow Avenue and Bartmer Avenue and Hodiamont Avenue. And on the 300, 400, 500, and 600 blocks of Clara Avenue between the intersection of Clara Avenue and Pershing Avenue and Clara Avenue and the Delmar Boulevard.
Okay. Alderwoman Clark, you are authorized to present Board Bill 110 before the committee.
Thank you so much. Yes, with that brief description, I did give both of these requests came directly from constituents and neighborhood community meetings. So I'm carrying it for them today, but notably out of the the Bolivar Place SBD meeting, that 300 through 600 block of Clarida, we are going to have an additional community meeting about that block as a whole, not just for the speed humps, but because it has the infamous Clara Gate at the corner of Clara and Delmar, but there's a lot of conversation around as well. So this is just a step, part of their petition they had as it relates to that gate being open, but notably, again, there will be an additional community meeting. And with that, I do ask for your favorable consideration and do pass recommendation for Board Bill 110.
Okay, and these are all residential streets, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, does anybody on the committee have any questions of Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard? Any of the other people on the committee? Any of the other people in attendance that are not on the committee? Hearing none, I'd entertain a favorable motion for due pass for Board Bill 110.
So moved.
Second, previous roll.
Previous roll.
Okay, Clerk, Madam Clerk, did you get?
I
I'm
have,
sorry.
I have motion made by Mr. Vaquero, Alderman Vaquero, seconded by 27, and previous roll by 3rd.
Okay. We have a motion, a second, and a call for previous roll. Is there objection to previous roll? Hearing none, Board Bill 110 is passed out with a due pass recommendation. Thank you, Alderwoman.
Thank you so much.
Clark.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're gonna get to Board Bill 80, I believe it is. Yes, and that's by Alderman Page. I want to kind of do some housekeeping. We did this last because there are speakers and other things, and I wanted to have to go through, but one time, the hearing, whenever we're having a public hearing and we're gonna have input, I have to read kind of the guidelines, and then I have to swear the people in, the oath of affirmation. And so what happens is after the presentation of any public bill, those identified as proponents, opponents, and those with no position shall be heard alternatively. All persons who wish to testify at the public hearing shall sign a list which shall be made available to the chair of the committee. The initial presentation of any witness shall be 3 minutes or another length of time set by the committee chair. However, it shall be no longer than 5 minutes, except with the committee chair's permission. Any witness may respond to questions by members of the committee for an additional period of time to be determined by the committee chair. And any witness may submit written testimony to the committee at any time prior to the conclusion of the hearing on the bill or resolution. I did get one written, one piece of correspondence that was written. A list of name and address of all persons who testified at a public hearing in support or opposition or with no opinion to any bill or resolution, and a copy of each written testimony submission shall be kept by the clerk as a public record and shall be available to the members of the committee and members of the Board of Aldermen when they consider said bill. Since we're having a webinar, it's a little different. Speakers shall be called in the order they appear on the list, which is in the same orders in which they register to speak. Each speaker shall be given a time set by the committee chair to speak. Because I like to express my opinion, I tend to be free with letting those who are speaking express their thoughts fully. So chalk that up to me being a lawyer and being around here for a long time, that I don't like to cut people off. Even when they disagree with me, I like to hear both sides. Each speaker shall be called by name when it's their time to speak by the committee chair or the clerk as directed by the committee chair. Each speaker may speak on the topic that the committee chair has recognized them to speak on and related matters. A speaker will be given the 1 minute mark when they have reached that point. Each speaker will be told when their time is up. Once their time is up, a speaker is to stop talking unless the committee chair gives them additional time. All participants are asked to be respectful and considerate to the others. Any participant may leave written comments by sending them to the clerk of the board, Mr. Terry Kennedy, at kennedy@stlouis-mo.gov, or by calling 314-589-6845 to make arrangements. And I have here, because Alderman Page is as bad as I am, several people who are going to be speaking. Let's see here. So I want to see if they're here. Barbara Burkett. Ed Ware. Dan Copeland. Any of those? No people? Adam Lane.
I'm here.
Okay.
I have Dan Copeland is present.
Okay. Dan Pister.
I'm here.
Okay. Lieutenant Scott Boyd. I saw Les Sturman someplace here.
Yes,
He's still
I'm
here.
Yes.
Okay. Brad Waldrop. Amy Gill.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get off mute. This is Brad Waldrop. I'm here.
Okay. Amy Gill. Austin Blankenship. Dave Sweeney, I see. Eddie Poor.
Yes, here.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Ed Ware and Dan Copeland is now here.
Okay, you all are gonna get fined for being late. I'm gonna have to talk to Frank about you guys.
We had the mute on. We've been watching this. Technical difficulty.
Okay, well, I understand that because I'm now on an iPad instead of my big nice screen I bought for this particularly, okay? So I'm gonna try again. Barb Burkheit, is she here? Dan Pister is here, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Lieutenant Scott Boyd,
No.
Amy Gill, Austin Blankenship. Okay, so what we're gonna do now in mass, so I won't have to repeat it over, I have to have you do an oath of affirmation and witness. And you can either affirm or you can swear depending on what your religious and your thoughts are. So it's pursuant to Article 4, Section 8 of the City Charter. I have to administer this oath to witnesses. And if you would all raise your right hand that are here, I need to see your faces. You can't just be here. All faces have to be here, okay? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people who I see their faces. Are there any more on here who intend to testify? 8 faces now. Any more here who intend to testify? Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. All righty. We're gonna start with the tardy people who I've been working with forever. Oh, I'm sorry, the people with technical difficulties, unless you want, I'm sorry, Mr. Page, and I just want to check with you. Is there an order you want for people to speak, or people that you brought here? There's somebody who might have to leave because we made you last, but we didn't take that long. Is there anybody with any particular rush that has to leave?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. It's my pleasure to bring before you Board Bill 80.
Wait a minute, but first, we're gonna get to that in a minute. I just want to know
Okay.
if somebody had said, well, look, I have to leave.
No, no,
Okay.
we do not have a preferred order, especially given that some of the planned speakers are not present.
Okay, then at this point, we're gonna bring Board Bill number 80 before the committee. Madam Clerk, will you please read the introduction to Board Bill 80?
Board Bill number 80, introduced by Alderman James Page, an ordinance pertaining to the permitting of surface parking lots as defined herein and to be codified at sections 8.70.010 and a new section 8.70.035 of the revised code of the city of St. Louis, establishing additional requirements for the same and containing a severability clause and an emergency clause.
Okay, Alderman from the 5th, you are authorized to present Board Bill number 80 before the committee. And I do want to let everybody know, we are going to have more than one meeting on this. This is a very complicated and challenged issue. We want to make sure everybody's points are heard. We're not trying to just push something through. We want people to understand what we're trying to do. So we will not take a vote today. There will be a second meeting next week. And if there's still problems to be worked out or something that doesn't work, we will have more than one hearing. This will be a working hearing to make sure people get to put their input in, and we as the committee can take a full view at the board bill before us. Alderman Page, you're authorized to present your board bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the Streets Committee, it's my pleasure to bring Board Bill 80 before you today. The purpose of this bill is to improve safety and security on the city's surface parking lots. For more details on that said safety and security, I would point you to Section 5 of the bill. I won't go in in the interest of time, I will not read it, but I would refer you to that section of the bill. As the chair has mentioned, I have a number of speakers that will be speaking in favor of the bill. There may be other speakers as well, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions related to the bill. Madam Chair.
And kind of just give us an overview of what this bill does.
Yes, thank you so much. What this bill does, it improves and strengthens the regulations related to surface parking lots in the city of St. Louis. And if you think about it, this is a safety, security, crime reduction measure. I know you have seen in the press and read in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, just like I have, the number of issues that occur on our surface parking lots. These are primarily paid surface parking lots. The majority of the lots are in and nearby to downtown, but the bill does apply to parking lots throughout the city. But if you'll take a look in Section 4G of the bill, it does have some zoning district modifications that emphasizes the effect of this board bill on certain zones and de-emphasizes its effect on other zones. That is a conversation that the vice chair, Alderman Bosley, and I had. So I wanted to make a special point of presenting that information. This
Okay.
bill will not completely eliminate crime, vehicular crime and the like, but it will improve the safety and security on our surface parking lots, especially late at night after the lots are officially closed. It will reduce gatherings, unauthorized gatherings on these lots and other negative activities. That's a high-level overview of what the bill is intended to do.
Okay. We got city officials here, but because we have guest speakers for and against, let's see.
Madam Chair, may I
yes,
make one adjustment? I received
Sure.
a message from Treasurer Adam Lane. He has a pressing meeting, so I would ask the chair's indulgence to bring him first.
Okay, I will, but I'm gonna bring him back because I'm gonna have some more questions for him. So he'll be back next week if he needs to go first now.
Certainly.
Okay, so we're gonna let the treasurer Adam Lane speak first, and then we will expect him back here next week at 10 o'clock. Treasurer Lane, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the board and this committee. Thank you, Alderman Page, for bringing this forward. I will try to be as brief as possible. I did want to speak in support of this board bill. As many know or don't know, the Treasurer's Office does own and maintain a bunch of surface lots as well as garages all across the city of St. Louis for the purpose of providing and serving the parking needs of our city. So I do support the measures put forth in this board bill to make sure that we are ensuring safety and security for residents, guests, visitors of our city, especially in our high traffic areas. We receive complaints all the time about safety and security on our lots, and we do our best to maintain and update them. And there are special cases. I remember the Cherokee Sid brought to our attention just on the 4th of July, fireworks being shot off on a lot that did some property damage in that area. And we were able to work with them to get security on that lot, especially during those events. But we are looking at long-term measures. And that's something that we're doing in our office and had been doing even before the previous iteration of the bill. So we are definitely in favor of this. We've been working with the Forest Park Southeast neighborhood. They've been very professional and they're great to work with, very coordinated in taking a comprehensive look at not just what the parking lot is doing, but what does safety and security look like in that area, and how can we make sure our residents and guests are taken care of and they feel like they can exist and enjoy the city in safety. In addition to that, again, with the improvement along in this area, like Alderman Page said, we can do a lot with it. But I do have, and I'm glad that you said, Madam Chair, that this is a working meeting. And there are going to be iterations, and I would love to answer questions. And reading through the board bill, there are things that I would like to see in there. Again, having some expertise, we'll say, in this area and dealing with this, dealing with parking ongoingly. One of the things that I see is that, we own surface lots and garages. We don't own all of them in the city. So one of the things, and I spoke with Alderman Page about this, that I would like to see is some funding provisions set aside in conjunction with this board bill. For us, we have already assessed the costs, and having done this work and continuing to do this work of updating our security and just fencing alone, adequate fencing, you're looking at $100,000 to $200,000, depending on the size, of course, of the lot. And that doesn't even include, lighting updates, tech updates, paving, striping, adding a booth, whatever that may be, adding an electronic gate. So these are real costs. of course, as a treasurer's office, as an extension of the city, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we're operating first and foremost for our residents, for our city. But I'm thinking about those privately owned lots who maybe $100,000 cost that is associated with this new bill might deter them from operating the lot at all. And now it's an abandoned lot, and now we have an abandoned lot that's not operating, and that's even more of a safety concern. So I do think that some funding provisions included in conjunction with this would definitely help to make sure that the intent of the board bill is met, that we have both those public and private entities that are willing to make these updates and upgrades and don't feel like it's an unreasonable financial burden for them. Secondly, and the alderman spoke to this as well, but I think I'm glad there's not a one size fits all approach to this, because there are going to be areas, there might be lots that operate, 3 times a week in a certain area that's not high traffic, and of course larger lots that operate in high traffic downtown areas where there is a propensity to have more bad agents, will say, try to break into cars and really threaten the safety of our residents. And I know that there are, the number of police calls or the number of incidents that happen can lead to some of the ramifications that are set aside in the bill, and just want to make sure that that is proportionate to the volume that we're seeing and proportionate to the area. So I would love to be a thought partner in that area. And subsequently, my third ask is just clarity on the hearings. I see we have some folks from the building division, but since in the board bill, it says that hearings will be part of the building division, just clarity on what constitutes reasonable evidence for something, what those procedures will look like, and really outlining some policy in that realm. And again, I would love to be a thought partner in outlining that policy. So when any entity that has an incident on their lot or multiple incidents and then has to go to the building division for the hearing, just clarity on what that looks like, what's the standardization that is there, and what people can or business owners, entities can reasonably expect to present and to be heard in those meetings. So all that to say, those would be my asks, and I'm happy to answer questions. I guess we have to go through everyone, so I'm going to stay on as long as I can, but I'm happy to answer questions either now or in the near future. So thank you.
First thing I want to say is that thank you for appearing. I would love what you just said to be reduced to writing for the next time. You could have your secretary type those up as recommendations you have, so that they will be before us in a written form, because they were some good recommendations. And I know you probably spoken to Alderman Page about them, but you haven't spoken to us. So this is the first time we're hearing some of them. So I would love for that for next week for you to have those things. And so with that, I'll open up the committee to anyone on the committee has any questions of the treasurer. Anyone on the committee has any questions of Alderman Vaccaro?
Actually, so not so much a question, but I actually, and we don't always agree, but I agree with you on this. Not only should there be money provided, whether it's through the COVID funds or whatever, if this is public safety, the private lots should get that too, to say, gee, this is going to cost, basically hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the city wants protection against it by having funding put in. I agree. But unless there's funding for all the lots, and to be honest with you, we can do all this. And I see the police out there with the sky cams and all that during the baseball games and all that. We still have the break-ins on the city lot, where City Hall's at. So even with all the cameras, all the police, all of everything, all of these measures are going to be a great expense to not only just the city lots, but to all the lots, and they'll solve nothing. There's plenty of video, even yesterday at a bank, where they took out an ATM machine. I can send you tons of video of people breaking into cars up and down our streets. Yesterday, and with the school shooting, and not only they have cameras, they had a security guard there. I mean, none of these things, these are all feel-good items. And if we're gonna burden the city and ask for funding, you know, I think then the private lots this should all be included in there, that they should be eligible for the funding, because I always felt that, and we brought this up in the past, that if there's a lot that's a problem, or a building, you know, you've had buildings downtown that are problems, we have buildings in my neighborhood that are problem, that we do have things in place for problem properties. And those are what we should be going after, the problem properties, not taking innocent. I mean, we could be going after church parking lots. I noticed one of the aldermen took out their zone out of the board bill. So, you know, it takes out their area, but, you know, it seems to me that you're correct. And, you know, if we're going to burden the city with what's going to be tens of thousands of dollars in expenses for things that are just feel-good items. And I do also believe that there's a place there's already things in place for nuisance properties. You know, and I do believe that your expertise in parking, you know, should play into this. And I was opposed to this the last time. It was only in the downtown area. Now it affects my area as well. And certainly have issues with it. But I look forward to further conversations with this, and I'm sure what's going to happen, aldermen in their areas will just basically say, okay, well, if you take my area out of the bill, it'll be fine, which is not actually, in my opinion, the proper way to do things. Anyway, these are just my opinions, and certainly I'll save them. And I appreciate your time, Mr. Treasurer.
Okay, is there anyone else on the committee who has questions for Mr. Lane or comments? Anyone else on the committee? Any other person not on the committee who has questions for the treasurer? Any other person not on the committee? Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Lane. I'll see you back next week, hopefully with your written comments and suggestions. And so if you gotta go, I appreciate it. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I'm going to stay on to listen as long as I can.
I do have a question for Mr. Ware and Mr. Copeland. I've been around here probably too long, but didn't years ago, when Vince Shamer was the mayor, I want to say, wasn't there something downtown where you had to, if you built a new parking lot, you had to put wrought iron and then brick columns? Do you guys, either one of you guys remember that?
No, and I think those were separate requirements that came up maybe through downtown itself. It wasn't really in the building code.
Okay, so it would be in each development plan.
Pardon me, ma'am?
It would be in each development plan if a developer came up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just was questioning. Right, so we're gonna get back to the guest speakers. Now, Alderman Page, are all these guest speakers, am I to presume these are supporters of your board bill?
The ones that I presented to the clerk and yourself are supporters, yes.
So that's Dan Pister, Scott Boyd, Les Sturman, Brad Waldrop, and Amy and Austin are not here. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that we can have fairness, that's what I wanted to know. I'm gonna let Dan Pister speak first, then I'm gonna let David Sweeney speak, then I'm gonna let Lieutenant Scott Boyd, then I'm gonna let Ed speak. So that way we'll have some fairness in presentation, okay?
That works perfectly for me.
Okay, Mr. Pister?
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Dan Pister, and I am the Vice Chair of the Downtown Neighborhood Association, and I'm the Chair of the Downtown Safety Committee for the past 6 years. So this isn't something that we've been talking about for years and getting input from the St. Louis Police Department, lot owners and other stakeholders that are downtown. Back in 2019, I made it a point to visit every single service parking lot in downtown and downtown west and take a look at the conditions of those lots. And this was after we had a series of break-ins in some of the lots surrounding the convention center during some events. Obviously, there was a lot of cars that were broken into, and unfortunately, a lot of the people that had their cars broken into are not going to be coming back downtown. And it was a significant media story, and it's damaging for the reputation of downtown. So I went and visited every lot and documented the physical condition of some of these lots. I had discussions with some lot owners that rarely had any break-ins, and the common theme was to have these lots fenced, gated, with proper gates to regulate who can come in and off the lots, and then the proper lighting. So everybody, obviously, so there's good lighting on the lots to improve the safety. So I documented which lots had it, which lots didn't. And then the pandemic hit, and we, in addition to the car break-ins, we started to experience a very high level of nuisance behaviors on these lots. We had people just coming onto the lots that were not gated. None of them were paying to be on these lots, and they would have parties. They would drink. They'd get into fights. They would shoot fireworks, as was mentioned from the previous speaker. And then on several occasions, it erupted in gunfire, which bullets went through some of the loft owners' buildings or loft owners' loft units. And obviously that has a massive impact. So, this is a significant safety and quality of life issue. It's not going to help. It's not going to reduce. So we have no car break-ins on these lots, but it's going to significantly help reduce those break-ins on these lots. And it's also going to help with the quality of life issue, because we're still experiencing the quality of life stuff. There was a news story over in 2020 where, the people that are living in the One Cardinal Way captured cars doing donuts in one of the lots just next to the stadium. So those are some of the issues that we are still experiencing from these. We need those physical improvements to help regulate and reduce that activity to increase the safety and quality of life downtown. We make other businesses implement certain safety improvements for their businesses to ensure that their customers are safe. There's no reason why we should not do that with parking lots. It's no different. These are customers, and we should treat them and try to make sure that they are safe when they park there, and their belongings are safe. This is something the Downtown Neighborhood Association approves of. This is something that the neighborhood wants, and we urge you guys to pass Board Bill 80. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any member of the committee that has a question, any questions for Mr. Pfister? A member of the committee? Alderman Vaccaro.
Again, just my comment. Car break-ins are happening downtown. They are happening all throughout the whole city. Speeding, cars doing donuts, motorcycles doing wheelies up and down Hampton Avenue. I get there's issues downtown. People are leaving my neighborhood because of issues. There are problem properties. Problem properties should be treated as problem properties. To blanketly say everyone is guilty is just patently wrong. And unless there's changes to this bill that, pay for, additional cameras and whatever it takes. Although there is a lot of older people that feel we don't need so many cameras throughout the city, our police, to say, gee, we're going to target people that lots that don't have problems or buildings that don't have problems, is just patently wrong. And I get that there's issues going on downtown, but I encourage you to come and look at my neighborhood. I've walked it. We have the same issues in these parks. We have the same issues on these streets. We've had literally well over 100, and I believe the number's closer to 180 people shot, mostly in North St. Louis. You know, a lot of the issues that are going on in the city, again, are all over throughout the whole city. And I get the downtown stuff, but downtown is not the only area that have these problems. And I still feel it's wrong to basically punish all the different lots. There's things in place that say, if you're a problem property, and believe me, in my ward, we've had 6 homes that we've condemned because they were drug homes, that we believe they were selling drugs. We were able to get them condemned as nuisance properties. That's the proper approach to dealing with a nuisance property, but to just claim every house in my neighborhood or anywhere throughout the city that every house is a nuisance property, or every, you know, since most of the shootings happen by teenagers, that every teenager walking on the street is a problem. You know, this is why there were things against stop and frisk. You can't just assume that everyone is guilty. And this is what this does. And this is where I'm at on it. I just strongly disagree that we punish and say, gee, you know what? And then the earlier statement that we want funding for the city properties to pay for these things. You know, again, that tells me right away that the city recognizes a very high cost in doing these things. And we're saying, well, the city should be protected, so we'll use city funds for the city lots, but we're not going to include the private lots. I mean, this is going to run into the millions and millions and millions of dollars. You know, anyway, I'm you know what, I'm gonna, because I'll just keep repeating myself over and over, but I just know that we have things in place, you know, and I know downtown they had the problem with the Airbnbs, you know, and you know, when you have a problem, you didn't condemn every hotel and every Airbnb downtown. You went after the problem ones, and that's the proper way to do things. So anyway, I will just set myself aside here. And I just have strong feelings that when we condemn everyone, when we blanketly say everyone is guilty, that even lots that are not problem lots are thrown into the same mix, and that cities should be protected against this with city funds, but private lots are not put in there. That's wrong. And I'll just set myself aside. I'll quit because I'm repeating myself over and over. I'm just going to set myself aside for a bit here.
Okay. Is there anyone else that have any questions?
I do.
Alderwoman Boyd.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. It's like real interesting because, and I've spoken to Alderman Page about this previously, because downtown is saying all these issues are going on. But I think what's interesting to me, they have picked North St. Louis bone dry, the thieves have. So now they have come to you guys. And so I did tell Alderman Page, I understand the frustration of the Downtown Association and all of these people. I said, but in our communities, we've been dealing with this for 20 years. We've been having these same issues, the wheelies in the middle of the street, the shooting, the seniors that can't sit on their porch, they can't sleep in their beds. It's been going on, but now it's a crisis. And so I think as a city, we need to start looking at the overall issues as a city. And all the time, it's not going to fix it with cameras and lights and balloons. And so it's going to take people to do this, to work together to make things change. So I applaud you all for coming forward, but just take in consideration, when it was happening in our communities, nobody saw the urgency in it. Nobody saw the urgency in North St. Louis. Alderman Vaccaro talked about nuisance properties. How long me and Alderwoman Tyus been talking about nuisance properties and nothing happened? We got nuisance properties that have open drug houses, nothing has happened. We got buildings that's collapsing, nothing's happened. We got guys walking the street, you think you're in Afghanistan, nothing happens. And so now we're looking at it's a priority. So I'm just kind of confused about this because this showing a division in the city again. And I'm not comfortable with that. If we don't look at it holistically, we're not going to win this battle that we're dealing with. Thank you.
Okay, any other committee member have a comment or a question? Non-committee member, Alderwoman Howard. We still can't hear you. Need to maybe turn it up. Can't hear you. Do you have your speaker on, any chance? We can see you fine. He's gonna be here. Maybe try to go back out. Okay, we kind of heard you a little bit there, so just turn that up a little bit. I'll come back. We hear you a little bit now. He's gonna be here. I'm not gonna release him. Why don't you try to go out and come back in, okay? All right, while she's doing that, Mr. Pister, how many members belong to the Downtown Neighborhood Association?
Yeah, we have
know?
400, approximately 400 general and associate members. It also includes some small businesses.
Okay, and currently, I'm gonna go back to Mr. Coughlin and the building division gentleman and Ed Ware. Do we currently have some kind of requirement that now the parking lots have to be staffed? The surface parking lot, did we change that a few years ago?
Yes, ma'am. We do require staffing. We do have some enforcement in our ordinance, but we are in favor of this board bill because of the increased requirements on the parking lots.
Okay, and I'll let you guys testify to that. I just wanted to, I thought a few years ago that we had, because we were having so many problems, that we had made it so that they had to have staff on the parking lots, okay?
Yes,
Surface
yes,
parking
ma'am.
lots.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll get to you. So Mr. Pister, can you stay a little bit longer? We're waiting for Alderwoman Howard to come back.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, then while we're waiting for her to come back, and she comes back, we'll get back to you. We have Mr. Dave Sweeney in opposition. Good morning, Mr. Sweeney. How are you?
Morning, Madam Chairwoman. I'm well. Good to see you.
Okay, good to see you. So you are authorized to present your perspective, which you are in opposition of Board Bill 80.
Correct. My name is David Sweeney. I'm an attorney and lobbyist. I'm an attorney at Lewis Rice, and I'm a lobbyist for a series of parking lot owners. And I also work and live downtown as well. So, and have formerly personally volunteered and been on the SID board and volunteered for various issues like this. On the call to, first off, thank you for agreeing to have a series of hearings, both Madam Chairwoman and to the sponsor, and being so available to meet with us, Alderman Page. We truly appreciate that, and we look forward to continuing that dialogue. And today I am in opposition as written. We would like, I think I can speak on behalf of my clients, we'd like to be in support of something that could work for all. And I'd also like to thank Treasurer Lane for his comments regarding the real big issue, the funding, both not just for the city, but also for the owners themselves. Within the bill itself, that kind of leads to, you know, an issue where we're requiring this to lots that are already there. And so we've got to be careful about a non-conforming use for current use, retroactively making lots do a series of these things. Like I said, we want to work together and we'll continue to do that. Also, Treasurer Lane talked about, and a key piece that I haven't really hit on is the due process piece. It's mentioned in passing on page 8, just administrative hearing. Well, that's really broad, and that's got to be kind of flushed out. A lot of the parking regs, which and I think it goes without saying, my clients, the ones that are interested in this, that are reaching out to me, bluntly paying me, are doing the right thing. It's the people that aren't in the rooms typically that aren't doing or aren't being good stewards often. I think we see that. And so I'm really here more for questions and to continue dialogue and to continue to work with this, not only with Alderman Page, but hopefully I know Barb Burkett was mentioned, and the police department. I know my client, Eddie Poor. Eddie Poor is on today. He's the only speaker that we were able to get today. And we'll continue to be accessible going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderwoman Howard, do you think you have your
I believe so. Can you hear me now?
yeah, very well, thank you.
I
Okay,
was just here to listen, but I've been prompted to speak because I think that this is a citywide problem. First of all, and expending city funds on city lots to me gives an unfair advantage to certain people, you know, that are city-owned lots. I understand the buildings division support of this. However, I think it's a broader issue that we need to hold people accountable for their behavior, and we're not doing that so well in the city with all the Alderwoman from the 23rd mentioned, I say cowboy riding of motorcycles and the havoc that a lot of these people wreck on the city of St. Louis in every nook and cranny, not just downtown. And I think that, you know, we need enforcement. We need people to enforce that, more specifically police officers. I think we need to hold people accountable and make sure that they're held accountable by some sort of fines or whatever we can do. But we're not doing so good in that arena. Making business owners spend more money to raise the parking rates, I think, is counterproductive to the city of St. Louis and getting people downtown and, you know, getting the money flowing. But I think we can, you know, maybe come up with some things that would help the parking lots be more safe without going, I guess, you know, we can put cameras, we've got all kinds of things going on. But it doesn't seem to be doing any good if we're not holding people accountable for their deviant behavior. So that's all I have to say is I think that, you know, there ought to be some solutions to this. Making parking lot owners, property owners, punishing them for those that are misbehaving, to me is not fair, just as the alderman from the 23rd said and the alderwoman from the 27th. You know, problem properties affect the neighbors more than they affect the property itself. So I think we need to hold up and hold up those people that are obeying the law and conforming and help them rather than trying to diminish their efforts and make them spend more money and possibly move out of the city. So that's all I have. And thank you, Madam Chairman. It's good to see you. And
thank you.
I'm happy that you allowed me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I see Alderwoman Schweitzer hand is up.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman. what kind of inspections happen now for surface parking lots? I don't know if that's to the building division or.
I
You
can
can ask
answer,
anybody
I
that's
can-
here.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, Alderwoman.
Do you want the
if-
building division to answer? Wait just a
That
minute.
would, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Right now, a parking lot would have to come down and apply for an occupancy permit. During the application process, there's requirements on the parking lot. We'll look at the surfacing. If this board bill goes through, we will look at fencing. We look at striping. We look at the minimum amount of ADA handicap spots there. We look at a minimum lighting to make a safe environment in the evening. There are some strong regulations encouraged to have attendants on duty. If there is an excessive amount of square footage on the parking lots, we want to make sure that the stormwater drainage runs into a proper receptacle. These are just some of the few things that the building division looks at on parking lots. During the review process, we've asked for decorative shrubbery and so forth and so on. It's a pretty broad-based requirement to open up a new lot. The existing lots is, and the ones that's had occupancies for quite some time, some were having difficulties with maintaining the lots to a minimum standard. So the whole thing with lots and the building division's point of view on this is the building division looks for a safe environment on all businesses. And these lots are businesses. And we are concerned about, and we're looking for a safe environment on these lots.
I appreciate that. And can you tell me how, so you said when the lots have an occupancy permit or applying, is this a one-time inspection? Are they done yearly?
The current situation, the current system is we will issue an occupancy permit on the lot. We go back and we try to check out these lots, and then we'll send violation letters on any deterioration. We will give them the amount of time needed to make the corrections. I think and I don't want to speak too much because I'll be getting into the board bill. The board bill, the new board bill, if I'm allowed to say so right now, has to where these lots will be up for renewal every year. We'll have to go out on a yearly basis. And if they are not maintained, or if we've had problems, police calls, let's say, documented police calls, or any documented nuisance activity through the city council's office and the nuisance problem properties division, we will look at not renewing their occupancy for the following year. So it gives us a little more enforcement teeth. Right now, all we're doing is going out and asking them to maintain what was originally agreed to. And when we find the time to do so, or the legal way to do so, then we ask for some new code requirements. So that's the current state of things.
All right, I really appreciate that because I'm hearing you say that when there are issues, people go out and cite them, but there is no, you lost your occupancy permit piece unless there's a certain number of violations, or how does that work?
That's what that I spoke about. The new pending board bill has those requirements on there under enforcement. Under renewal is on section 9 of this board bill. Enforcement is later on. Currently, we go out on the existing lots and we try to cite them and make them maintain what they have. It could be lighting. We have a device that goes out and measures the minimum amount of candle illumination. 2 foot. 2 candles per foot. So we cite them for various things, and if they don't comply, then we fine them and we send them to court. And then currently, we bring them down and sometimes we threaten revocation, but it's not a clear process right now. It could be stronger, and I think that's what this board bill is trying to do.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it is interesting in thinking about these lots as kind of the ways we work with other problem properties, for the ones that are problems. There is some sort of process of problem properties that happens that is, within a few different departments, talking with the owners, and they work through it in that way. And that does often result in homes as the occupancy permit is revoked, and that it can be up to, I believe, is that a year that it's normal in a problem property if there's not.
That's correct. And that hearing is done through the director's office with the problem properties people. And there's a procedure that we will revocate occupancies for 12 months.
Right. Yeah, I'm hearing, trying to understand in terms of in this bill, if the problem that needs to be addressed is clarifying a city process. So when there is a problem, it can be addressed in a way that solves the problem, or if the need is a lot more technology, a lot more security, fencing, all of that on the lots. Because if the enforcement piece from the city isn't working in a way that addresses what's happening now or problems that are occurring now, that piece seems to need to be strengthened. And that's what I think you're arguing. Well, I appreciate those answers. I'm sure I'll have a lot more questions for everyone, and I'll yield back.
Okay. Is there
Yes,
anyone else? Go ahead. Did you have go ahead, comment?
No, ma'am. No, Madam Chairman, I'm sorry.
Is there anyone else on the committee that has a question or comment for Mr. Pister or for Mr. Sweeney? Okay, or the building division, since they're answering our questions as we go. Okay, now going back to a supporter, Lieutenant Scott Boyd. Is he here still? If they had to leave, Alderman, they can come back next week, okay?
Chair, I have not seen Lieutenant Scott Boyer on this morning, so I will contact him about a return visit, but I think we can move on.
Okay, the next person in support is Mr. Les Sternman.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Les Sternman. I live at 1120 Locust Street. I've lived here for over 17 years now, and I'm here in support of Board Bill 80. My apartment is on the 4th floor with a wall of windows directly overlooking a large surface parking lot that wraps around our building. The lot runs along St. Charles Street between Tucker and 11th, and then wraps around the building, extending out to Locust. So basically, I've had a front row seat to a lot of disruptive activity on this lot. Gunfire, numerous fights. The parking lot is a launching pad for an arsenal of fireworks, some that I couldn't even believe. The staging area for cruising, parties, you name it, and it takes place on this lot. Our building has been hit several times with gunfire originating in the parking lot. The embers from fireworks launched from the lot have burnt holes in the roof on our building, as well as falling bullets have made holes in the roof. For many years, the lot was staffed with an attendant until late at night, but several years ago, payment kiosks were installed, and the lot is now completely unattended, except occasionally someone will stop by just to verify that people have paid. So I'm kind of curious about this requirement for lots being attended, because this one clearly is not attended at all. After late afternoon, when somebody comes to canvass the lot to check whether vehicles are paid to park, the lot is essentially free since there is no further verification of payment. It's essentially open season on that lot. There have been nights where literally hundreds of cars were parked on this lot, and as far as I can tell, nobody pays. We've been told by attendants that stop by that it is simply too dangerous to send an attendant out at night on these lots. And that obviously that says a lot. In an attempt to control the problems on weekends, large portions of the lot are now blockaded with unsightly Jersey barriers. And the principal effect is that people now park illegally right on the sidewalk along St. Charles, with substantial portions of the lot still remaining open. This is clearly not a solution. Board Bill 80 recognizes this is a special problem downtown, and I emphasize this is for paid lots. This is not for church parking lots and other unpaid lots. It applies to paid lots in downtown and some of the commercial districts around the city. Provides for common sense measures to secure these lots with fences and gates. It'll actually assure that people pay to park at all hours, resulting in more revenue for parking lot owners. There's been this issue of cost, but I can tell you from firsthand observation that putting up fences and gates will result in significantly more revenue on the parking lot next to my building. I'm under no illusion that this bill will fix every problem, and others in this hearing have made reference to that. But we know that it will make a significant difference. We know from experience that fenced and gated lots don't have the number of problems that occur on completely unsecured lots. I recognize there'll be costs to lot owners that have yet to take steps to secure their parking lots, but some lot owners have gone through that process, and it results in significantly more revenue to them. But right now, those of us who live next to these lots and live downtown are paying the cost of these wide open lots where bad activity happens. Those of us who live downtown, we expect there to be more noise. We expect there to be people partying, having a good time. Downtown's not a quiet suburb, and we don't want it to be. That's why we moved here. But what is taking place on these parking lots goes well beyond that. I would urge the committee to recommend approval of Board Bill 80. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you all today, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Sturman. Is there any member of the committee who has a question or concern that they would like to state to Mr. Sturman? Alderman Carl.
Actually, if I could, I would like to ask either Mr. Copeland, Mr. Ware, a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. So my question is, this is again one of the lots that I say should be targeted. So if there's been shootings and fireworks and all this illegal activity going on, what have you done to go after the owner of this lot and actually make this lot? Because if it's a problem lot, this is what I'm arguing in the very first place. If it's a problem lot, what have you guys done to address this as a problem property?
Most of that activity, Alderman, we will come down and talk to them about securing the lot, but all of the activity that you're talking about would be part of the police calls to service there, which would, when it reaches a certain number, then it triggers the nuisance ordinance, which is all handled by the city councilor's office. There's a separate enforcement path that's taken by them, and closure if they deem it to be a nuisance. With us, if we bring them down here, we try to strongly encourage them to stop this, because they probably will be declared a nuisance. And so there's various enforcement paths that can be in place and are currently in place. And the Problem Properties Ordinance and the City Councilor's Office and Property Properties Division, run by Mia Wood, is one of those paths. The other path that we have sometimes is during the occupancy process, there are conditions set for the occupancy. If they break the conditions for that they agreed to for the occupancy, we will bring them down for a hearing through the zoning and the Board of Adjustment and talk about revocation. If they get building code violations from the building division part on maintenance and various things like that, if they refuse to comply or anything like that, they have two options. One is to apply for an appeal because they don't agree with the letter, which would then go to the Board of Building Appeals, not the Board of Adjustment. And or we send them to court to go before the judge to explain themselves. So there's no one path. There's no one answer to this.
So, Madam Chair, what I would ask is, and again, targeting this particular lot, which seems to be a nuisance property, I would love to see the, I would guess the city attorney come in to answer these questions. Why has this lot not been taken care of? The same question I will have as to why it's taken me 6, 7, 8 years to condemn a house in my neighborhood, or why I have a junkyard in my neighborhood that no one seems to be able to address because it is no longer, well, it's not public safety. So the building division says, well, it doesn't really have building code violations. The health department says having a junkyard, well, yes, maybe, possibly. These fines that are $25 that we don't refer to court. This is the lot we should be targeting, not lots that are not. I would like that at the next meeting, we bring in so that they can answer not only about this particular problem property that should be shut down, or at least given conditions on how they would stay open, whether it's fences, police, whatever it takes. But to say again, every lot should be targeted as wrong. But I'd like answers as to why this lot is still being able to be operating. I would like to know the calls for service for police to this lot. If it's been that many, why this lot has not been taken care of. This, by the explanation of the tenant, this lot should be targeted and shut down. Now, I don't know where the tenants will park after they shut it down, but this lot should be targeted. If all these things, if the calls for service are happening, this is a nuisance property. But they should answer not only about this lot. I got questions about problem properties in my neighborhood too. So, I would ask that we bring them in and that they're prepared to answer questions about this particular lot and other properties in my neighborhood that I can't even get referred to court. They just keep sending these $25 fee letters, which is basically a joke. Anyway, so I would like that at the next meeting, please.
And he had tried to get somebody from the city council's office, and we will. But Alderman, okay, what I want to do is I have a resolution in your committee that I want to ask you to now hear, which is all about nuisances, okay? So instead of making this one issue bigger, why don't we just do it in your committee where we can bring everybody in to talk about everything? Is that all right?
I am absolutely on board with that.
Okay, we'll do that. Alderman Page, I saw your hand was up.
Yes, I wanted to address a small technical issue with the Alderman from the 23rd's comments. The part and parcel to the problem property process is the number of calls for service. And this is a well-recognized issue when people call 911 or the non-emergency number. They don't know the street addresses of these parking lots. So the problems, the issues are not properly reported. That's one of the things. It causes, sorry, I had an interruption. It causes the calls for service not to be accurately and fully reported. So that's another problem. Another thing is that the problem properties process, as all of my colleagues on the north side will attest, it is a torturously long, engaged process. And
So I'm going to stop you because we have a lot of still several speakers. And Alderman from the 23rd has agreed to hear my resolution, which addresses the problem properties, which addresses what I found, that they only closed one problem property in all North St. Louis in 5 years. And then we can get in the weeds. We don't need to do that on your bill right now, because we have still several people that need to speak, if that's all right with you.
It is, and as you know, I'm with you on that resolution, and I will yield back at this point.
Right, thank you very much. Is there anyone who has any questions of the people who've spoken or the building people who are here before us? Because if not, we're gonna go on to the next person. And that would be Eddie.
Sorry, ma'am.
I'm looking for you. I'm sorry. Okay, here you are. I'm sorry. I'm on my little iPad, which is just, I'm so irritated because my big stuff is not working. So how do you pronounce your last name, sir?
Are you speaking to me, Miss?
Yes, sir.
Ed Ware, Building Division? Is that who you're addressing?
No, I'm talking to Eddie, P-O-H-R-E-R.
Eddie
Okay.
Porer, Madam Chairwoman.
Yes, Madam Chair, it's Eddie Pour, like pour a glass of water.
Okay, that's how I explain tie us together. So pour a glass of, I got you now, okay?
Or,
Mr.
or whatever you want,
Pour,
whatever
ahead.
you want to drink.
Right, okay, Mr. Porter is recognized as someone in opposition to Board Bill 80.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. As Dave Sweeney mentioned earlier on the call, although there's only one of me, I am not alone. I won't give you the names of everyone at this point in time, but I'd say it's most of the parking lot operators, as well as several independent owners. And I'd like to start by thanking Alderman Page for agreeing to not hold a vote today on Board Bill 80. Alderman Page and I have known each other for many years, and I had the pleasure of serving on the SID board together with them for a long time. I've personally witnessed Alderman Page's dedication to the city regarding many issues, and know that his heart is in the right place to make St. Louis the best city it can be. I've been in St. Louis, working in St. Louis for over 30 years. As I said earlier, served on the SID committee as the chair. Many other committees, worked closely with a lot of the St. Louis police officers, firemen, firewomen, the building division, Frank Oswald, et cetera. So I'd like to think that I know we're extremely involved in trying to make the city a better place. As Dave said earlier, I really want to find some language that makes sense for the parking lot owners. Now I'm speaking on behalf of me independently, not the other operators. And I hope we can get to that point. I do think we're going to need more than a few weeks to do that because of a lot of the things that have come up in today's call. All that being said, I make my living in the parking business. My family isn't supported if people don't come to St. Louis. So I realize that we need to do something as a city. If crime continues in its current path, we're in trouble. A lot of these things are repetitive, so I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. I am not in favor of Board Bill as currently written for many reasons, but I'll go over a few of them. Number one, it is punishing another victim. I know a lot of people don't like parking lot operators, or they don't like to come down to the baseball game and pay to go to a parking lot, but we manage parking for people, individuals, companies, families that are tax-paying, law-abiding citizens who are invested in the city and who are giving back to the community in most cases. When a crime is committed, we truly are victims. I can quote Steve O'Laughlin, who many of you know with LHM. He feels the same way. We're victims as well. Behind every business are people that run it and own the property they're trying to make an honest living. Number two, installing fencing in parking lots is not the solution. I had a breakfast meeting that Alderman Page and I attended together with Captain Pierre Benoist and Detective Jeffrey Gavin of the St. Louis Police Department to discuss Board Bill 80. In my opinion, no one is more qualified to determine what is most effective than the police who are on the streets every day battling these issues. Captain Benoist was very clear on his position of adding fencing in particular to parking lots, and it was very powerful to hear. I asked at the end of the meeting, I asked him, and James could attest to this, if I had his permission to quote him at this meeting, and he said yes. So this is a quote from Captain Pierre Benoist of the St. Louis Police Department. "The fence is not the issue. The vehicular entrances and exits are the issue. Having anyone spend money on fencing is a complete waste of money." I won't repeat that, but the last of it was, having anyone spend money on fencing is a complete waste of money. Captain Benoist and Detective Gavin then cited a few recent incidents that occurred where a location was fenced, and also showed us some video of one that occurred in a fenced parking lot on Washington Avenue, where the people pulled up, waited for someone to leave, I believe, and then broke into the lot. Again, these are currently fenced in. I'm making the assumption that they may meet the current lighting requirements, et cetera. It was at the very end of our meeting, but it was very powerful to see that as well. Number 3, in section 9, the revocation or denial of renewal. Some of you have touched on this earlier, but right now the way it's written is it's very penal, and that if in 60 days, if there are 2 police calls for service, we could potentially have our parking permit revoked or a denial of our renewal when it comes up. That's very scary to think about. I want to put that into context. So let's say we're at a property where someone on the call, or someone you know, or one of your constituents lives downtown, and we provide monthly parking for them, and there happens to be some sort of incident on the property. What happens to these 100 monthly parkers who park there every day to go to work, and then 50 residents who park there overnight, and the lot is closed in 30, 60 days, whatever is decided? Where do they go? And these are obviously hypothetical questions. What happens to the owner and operator if they can't honor a lease agreement that they already have with a tenant that may extend beyond the 60-day period in which their license was revoked? What about a location like the MAC, Missouri Athletic Club, who is a client of ours? They have a concrete brick wall on the west side of their surface lot. They have some bollards and chains. Do they have to tear all that out now and then rebuild stuff per 80? Or are they grandfathered in? What happens if someone adheres to the items in the board bill and an incident then occurs? Is there a new board bill that increases the candle power, more fencing? Do we now have to have security guards? Board bill provides way too much power for a business to be completely shut down in a very short period of time. Number 4, and lastly, and I wish I'm gonna contact Treasurer Lane. I was so encouraged to hear what he had to say about the funding mechanism. I think he said funding for private and city locations. I don't know if he did or did not, but either way, I'm glad that he brought that up and recognized that this is a true cost. And I also heard from several alder people who said the same thing. So it's extremely expensive, and in many cases, it completely changes the value of the property negatively through loss of spaces and restricted access. In the last 24 hours, as quickly as we could, we took some per square foot costs and talked to an electrician. All these properties sight unseen. On the low end, a parking lot's going to spend at least $50,000. On a high end, over $500,000 for one of the lots that we currently manage. Again, we don't own most of these properties. We are a management company hired by different property owners. There's no doubt, as I think someone referenced earlier, that some of these properties will literally have to shut down. It'll be cheaper to just not operate them, not collect money. And then there's public people that are obviously relying on those properties to be safe walking to and from work. In addition to this cost, there are properties that will lose parking spaces based on the proposed requirements. One lot in particular will lose an estimated 15% of their property. I'm almost finished. I want you to forget about parking lots for a moment. Let's say you own a 100-seat restaurant. You've been working as a waiter or waitress or bartender for 20 years. You finally saved up money to open up a restaurant in the city of St. Louis. Someone just said, hey, we need to take 15 of your seats away forever, right after COVID. Now imagine if you're that same restaurant that has no consistent history of crime near or on your property, but because of this board bill and several hotspots miles away or nuisance properties all of a sudden you could be forced to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or are going to lose part of your restaurant. This would be devastating and likely the end of most restaurants that are required to do so. While I am thoroughly confident that this is not the intention of Alderman Page, this is certainly the result in many cases. What can parking operators and owners to be part of the solution? I think we should consider forming a committee of the building division, parking lot owners, the police department, whoever this group or others determine as the right people to be on this committee to address these issues that we've discussed today. At the beginning, we can start with the hotspot properties and work our way through. We're already in contact with the St. Louis Police Department, whether it be for weekly security calls, board meetings that we serve on together, et cetera. We've had several successes where we've worked together. One is at 9th and Spruce, which is actually a property owned by the city. We were having some issues at the Wheelhouse. Once it was identified, we increased our security and have since controlled the ingress and egress. Again, the ingress and egress, which is what Captain Benoit and detective said was the most critical thing we needed to do. Another is examples at 7th and Syriot patios. People were congregating there after hours. So again, we worked on securing the ingress and egress. I believe that if we follow this process, we can more efficiently work together to combat crime and not penalize yet another victim. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Poor. Is there anyone on the committee who has questions for Mr. Poor? Anyone on the streets committee who has questions? Okay, any other person who's not on the street committee who has questions? All righty, thank you, Mr. Poor. He is against in opposition of Board Bill 80. So now we're going to go back to Mr. Brad Waldrop.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
I'm trying to find you. I need to see your face.
Oh, hold on one second. There I am.
Okay, Mr. Waldrop, you come to testify in support of Board Bill 80, is that correct?
I do.
Okay, you have the floor. You are authorized to speak.
Thank you. I also am a parking lot operator, and this is going to cost me some money if this ordinance gets passed, but I'm more than happy to spend money to make money as a business person. You know, I think we all can identify with, no matter what neighborhood we're from in St. Louis, that we don't like slumlords. We want people to take care of their properties. And that's hugely important for downtown. I look at downtown not like any of our neighborhoods like the Grove, the West End. It's really more like the airport. It should be a major tax generator for all of our neighborhoods, including North City. There was some testimony earlier that it seems like this is like a divisive sort of ordinance where we're not really looking at the needs of North City, but in all reality, downtown is like the airport, and the more money we can make downtown, the better all of our neighborhoods are going to be, because we put that back into general services. Related to that, Greater St. Louis recently revisited an old study that the CID did that showed that downtown is not even growing at an inflationary rate. In fact, Polsinelli was in the news recently about moving all their lawyers to Clayton. And we've experienced a lot of office attrition like that. So these parking lots play into this. As I mentioned, I own parking lots. We have about 500 parking stalls. And when I first started operating those, I noticed that I was having about 5 break-ins a week. And actually back then I probably only owned about 150 stalls. So what I did as a business person was I said, you know, I guess I'm going to have to take some risk and put some capital into my property. And so I put 4-foot fences with smashed finials. These look like pool fences. They're not wrought iron, they're aluminum, which makes it cheaper. They're nice looking. They don't look like chain link. I don't think there should be chain link in downtown St. Louis. And then we put LED lights up. We paved our lots, we striped them, we put curb stops up so people couldn't run into our new fence. And then this is very important, we put gates up at our entries. This means that you can't just pull onto my lots and party on them. You can't do donuts. You can't fire off fireworks. I mean, could you get onto them? Yeah, you could probably find a way on, but it's a lot harder to get on my lots than these lots that have no fencing or big gaping holes where you can just drive on and off. And since we've done that, we increased our rates. So I hope, people are paying attention to the statement, but the capital expenditures we made that money back in less than 3 years. So there's been some comments today about how we need to use, government subsidy or ARPA funding, or we need to really be worried about how parking lot owners are going to reach into their pockets and not be hurt by this. Well, they should make more money, specifically in downtown and downtown west. I don't want to make that a blanket statement for all the city, because parking in Soulard is different than parking in downtown St. Louis. There's more money to be made by the hockey arena, by Stiefel, by City Museum, by the Arch. Mr. Porter was talking about how he doesn't want to be, sorry, that was a call that came in. That, we're punishing another victim. I mean, and then he cited that he spoke to Steve O'Laughlin from Union Station and Ballpark Hilton about this. As parking lot operators, we're not victims. I can tell you that there's millions of dollars in sale value in these parking lot operations. I've had people contact me from around the world to buy my parking lots, and they want to pay me millions of dollars for them. And I am a small operator. Mr. Poor has owned parking lots for decades. He's a third generation operator. His grandfather founded the company. There's plenty of money to buy fences and lighting and gates for these parking operators. And again, they'll make their money back in less than 3 years. They came to the meeting today with a lobbyist. I didn't come with a lobbyist. Mr. Sturman, the resident you heard from, did not come with a lobbyist. And it's astounding to me that these big operators in downtown seem to consistently fight us little guys that only want to improve the surrounding neighborhoods so that more residents want to come in, more office users. And I can tell you that the main difference between us is we're not hospitality guys. We're not operating on islands like Ballpark Village or Union Station or the casino. We care about the economy in the neighborhood, meaning when you walk between Ballpark Village and the casino or Union Station and Washington Avenue, we're trying to grow the street grid for the average person to better the average experience of the tourist when they're not just shuttling themselves in between these islands. It's a real simple ask. Is it going to cost more than $50,000 for a downtown operator? Yes. But to put a 4-foot fence up, LED lighting, and a gate so you just can't pull on, so you have to pull a ticket to get on, or something like that, and to add cameras is not a real big ask for a business person. Some other things that were stated were, what's going to happen when the lot goes under construction. This is a 45-day build. Sure, there needs to be some sort of understanding in the building division that some of these lots, because of lease terms and whatnot, they need to be given a little bit of leeway to get these capital expenditures done. But we're not talking about ripping up Washington Avenue and rebuilding it over a 1-2 year period. We're talking about a 45 to 60 day build. And a lot of the work is not going to push these cars off the lots. When you put up a perimeter fence, you're not really interrupting most of the cars that are parked on the lot. If you have to excavate to put underground conduit in, to put up light poles, sure, you're going to have to move some cars, but you're not going to have to move them entirely off the lot. And one of the problems with downtown is that we have too much parking. So there are plenty of places to move these cars during construction. Unfortunately, because we do have so much crime and because the downtown economy is broken, we have a ton of parking facilities. And really what we're trying to do here, the little guys, the Les Sturmans of the world, the Dan Pisters that run the neighborhood organization, and me, a small operator, is put safety in place so that we can start to afford underground parking like you see in Clayton and have retail at ground floor level versus nobody wants to walk past a parking lot. There are also some statements made about how related to kind of problem properties and neighborhoods and how we should focus on the problem properties and not everybody. Well, parking lots are high value targets. They're not like everybody's house. They are a high value target. People see a bunch of Blues fans park. They know there's guns in the cars, or sometimes just coats or food or change, and they attack the parking lot. So you can't compare this to your average property owner and kind of look at it as if it's a unique high value target, specifically when it's operating. There are also some questions about whether or not the existing ordinance requires labor on parking lots. I want to be very clear on this also. If that needs to be clarified, and if you force any of us as operators to have 24/7, 365 labor, you'll bankrupt us. That's like asking a restaurant to have bartenders and servers and kitchen staff in the restaurant at 5 in the morning when there's no customers. Labor should not be something that's forced. I personally put labor on my lots, but I staff them when the bars are open. My guys go home when the bars close. I don't need to have them there all the time because my parking lots are automated, which is what this bill is pushing for, or at least a gated system, even if it's not an expensive automation. But the point is, if you're a good operator, you're going to have labor when you're busy because you don't want somebody to break your gate arm and all your money then runs off the lot. But if you force full-time labor, you will bankrupt operators. So that should not be a requirement. If you put the capital expenditures in place and make the lot impenetrable per se to vehicles without pulling a ticket, you will reduce crime. And then related to this not being a perfect solution, I can tell you I did have break-ins when the Kia boys started driving around town and boldly breaking into Kias and Hyundais. So this is not a perfect solution, but I rarely have break-ins on my parking lots. And again, I operate about 500 stalls, which is fairly significant. And my lots are around City Museum and the Last Hotel in the Loft District.
I'm going to ask you to try to wrap it up.
Yeah. So let's
coming towards 12 o'clock in the lunch hour.
Sure. So let's please not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We're not going to completely solve our crime problems, but this is an affordable, specifically in downtown west solution. And I also want to point out that Mr. Sweeney stated that his clients that are in the room are kind of the good guys. It's usually the people not in the room that are the problem. Well, the parking lot that Mr. Sturman talked about that everybody agreed should be a problem property is Mr. Porter's parking lot. And during the pandemic, because he had no labor there and he has no fencing, the city came down and dropped Jersey barriers all over it. And if you drive by it today, it's behind the old Rain restaurant, which I'm sure you've all heard about. It still has Jersey barriers all over it because he won't put up fencing, he won't light it, and he won't put labor on it, and he won't secure it. He's losing money. He's hurting the Loft District. And why isn't it a problem property? I think we all know how well that system works. What this will do is require people when they pull a permit to put this fencing up or to retroactively do it now, and it needs to be done. Thanks for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Before I let the committee ask questions, do you live downtown?
I do not any longer, ma'am, but I did live in the annex lofts for about 4 years. I moved to the county for the school system.
You don't have to explain to me. I'm just trying to, and I wanted to also ask Mr. Poor. Mr. Poor, if you're still there, do you live downtown?
No, ma'am, I do not live downtown.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, if anybody from the committee has questions for Mr. Waldrop, and I see Alderman Vaccaro.
Well, questions and comments both. I mean, this bill does call for staffing, so you're not in favor of the bill, I guess, as it is, but would be my guess. I mean, so we would throw the staffing out, but a 4-foot fence might cure everything. The thing that you talked about, don't worry about it. We can make more money. Let's pass this cost along. You know how many city employees are begging the Board of Aldermen to figure a way to not have them pay for parking, to tell them, look, we'll do this and pass along the cost. We're having no problems getting people to come to work as it is. And then to say, gee, well, we can just pass along the cost of this to the city workers that are hundreds of them that work downtown. We'll just charge them more. Just simple solution. Let's throw money at this. Let's charge the city employees more. Let's charge the poor people that are working downtown. The people you're talking about that go to work at restaurants downtown. Big deal. So they pay more for parking. Is the owner of the restaurateurs and them, they're going to give them all raises? If that lot that we're talking about is a problem property, whether the poors are anyone own it, it should be dealt with as a problem property, not blanketly doing every one. I just have problems with this. Well, there's a lot of money that could be made. We'll just do this and pass all this costs along.
Let me clarify that.
You know what? As long as I'm talking, you'll have your opportunity. Okay, let me finish my statement first. When you say that it's no big deal, we can make more money, let's pass this along. It tells me that the poor people that have to work there have to incur those costs. The poor people that work at the stadium, they're not going to give them all a raise. They're not going to waive their parking. The city refuses to waive the parking for the city employees. So as we do this and we raise the cost of parking for monthly parking and the people that live downtown that basically go to work downtown, this is going to discourage things. And to say that the only economic engine of the city, I mean, when you talk about, well, then I guess, then let's forget about North St. Louis because it doesn't generate as much taxes as South St. Louis. That's just flat rude. My neighborhood generates a lot of taxes and property taxes. I'm sure we generate more than areas in North. Does this mean that we deserve more protection than North St. Louis? This is what we've been talking about at the board since the day I got there. It's that the money that hasn't gone into North St. Louis is affecting South and downtown. The crime has moved on. It's been being warned from the day I got down there. So simply saying, this is where all the money comes from is absolutely, I don't know, true or untrue. My neighborhood generates a lot. Other neighborhoods don't generate as much as mine. Telling us that, gee, just pass this cost along to the consumers, there's a lot of money to be made, is flat wrong. That's my statement. Certainly you can reply to that statement. But, and if that problem that we're talking about, I don't care who owns it, if it's a problem property, it should be dealt with as a problem property. That is a property that should be fenced or whatever the building division and the owner of that property decide is the best way to handle that, lighting, whatever, you know, that I agree with. But again, this bill calls for staffing and you feel that that part of the bill is not good. So anyway, I'm gonna just listen and I won't comment to what you're going to say because I'm sure you're going to respond however, and that's fine. I'm just going to sit back and listen and just kind of listen. Thank you.
Madam Tyus, if I could just try to make a quick rebuttal.
You can, but I do want to caution you, Alderman was right. When he's speaking, you cannot speak over Alderman and you have to be recognized by me, which I always will, okay? But you are recognized.
I understand, thank you. Alderman Vaccaro, if you make a lot safer, the volume increases. More tourists come to the property, more residents want to park on the property. So you're not necessarily going to the public and saying, you've got to pay me 30% more, 40% more. You're increasing your volume because now more people want to visit your property. And as far as a fixed number of stalls, which Mr. Poor sort of addressed, and if you lose stalls when you put up gates and whatnot, there's something in the parking business called turning your lot. So at City Museum, when they have a busy day, I turn my lot 2 or 3 times. I say 2 or 3 times that it fills up because they're busy. And more people want to park with me because they know that I was the safe lot the last year that they came. And so I get more and more repeat business.
Okay. Hold on just a moment. Mr. Sturman, do you have a comment to Mr. Waldron, or do you have a different comment?
I just wanted to very briefly address a question that Alderman Vaccaro brought up. The bill does not require lots to be staffed. It only requires lots to be staffed if you don't put up a fence and control access to the lot.
Okay, so it's staffed if you don't have a fence and control access. But if you have a fence and control access, it does not have to be staffed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And is this new board bill, Alderman Page, going to change any of that?
You mean over the current ordinances?
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me, will it still leave in place that if you already have your fence and your control access, will you have to have it staffed? Do you remember?
The answer is no, it will not have to be staffed if you have the fencing and technologies in place.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Waldron, did you have any more that you had to say? Or you needed to say a response?
No, I think I'm good. Again, very small ass, fence, lights, gate your lot. If I'm kind of indifferent on the camera thing because people feel weird about cameras, but for us, it's been a good deterrent. So, and you can make your money back through higher volume because all of a sudden more people want to live and work downtown. I'm not trying to gouge the average person. You'll make more money through volume. Thank you.
Mr. Waldron, I want to address you. This is my second time on the Board of Aldermen because I was racially gerrymandered off of the board after doing $53 million in North St. Louis. So things can happen in North St. Louis if people are not racist and stupid and tear up things that are positive. During what I like that you talk about that as an owner, you try to fix up. When I was the chair of public safety before, I passed a bill that you could no longer put, the landlords cannot put the junk out on the corners when they evicted someone. I'm also an attorney, but and so when all the landlords came down and they said, "Oh, you don't understand, you're being so mean to us," then I said, "I do understand. I'm a landlord, but I have that contract with that person. So why should I then make the whole neighborhood have to put up with something that I made a contract with?" And so then they had no response to that because I've been a landlord for many years. We own property. We've been rehabbers. So I like your response about fixing up, that even though it costs money, it does cost money to make money. Okay. And I wish every business person will put back in as much as they can. I do know some smaller people that can't. Maybe it's not the people who are testifying. Mr. Sweeney used to be the board attorney, so he knows many of us. Well, he knew many of us before we left.
Related to that.
Yes, but I do want
to. I'm sorry.
Again, you have to let me recognize you, okay? And I'm speaking. The second thing what I want to tell you is about the downtown being an economic engine. I'm the only person down here that I've been down here since the first time since 1991. When I came down here, it was not an economic engine. It had a few hotels and a few what's the big place that down on Broadway where the people live or whatever. And it didn't have all of this. So basically what happened is that the mayor stole the money from block grant that should have been going to North St. Louis. If you look at any of the applications, it says, this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem. And they were all in North St. Louis, and then they put all the money downtown, which I usually voted against. I voted against that hotel that's across from the convention center because we knew it was going to go bankrupt, and it did. And then they came back because what they did is they believed in St. Louis downtown so much that they were willing to steal from North St. Louis. And I told Tom Villa, Vince Shamel, all the other mayors that came along, because it's my sixth mayor, but mostly Tom and Vince, that you all are going to pay for this one day, because you cannot have poison and cancer in the left hand and you don't get it in the right hand if it's not addressed. The problems that people are whining about down in the downtown and on, I was here when they put $10 million, Clarence Harmon, in the streets for Washington so that they could have all this electronic stuff, which now they don't even use anymore. And so the whole problem was you didn't do that equally in North St. Louis. South St. Louis didn't need it, but that because you had applied for this block grant money for North St. Louis, if you had just spent some of it or a majority of it where it was spoken about, you wouldn't have some of these problems. Maybe you wouldn't have as much buildup in downtown. But to build an economic engine at the expense of the rest of the neighborhood is not a good thing to me. And I've always been on record against it and talked about it, okay? Now I see a lot of things coming home to roost because they didn't listen. I'm actually married to a city planner. So the reason why I was able to do $50 million, first new school, first new grocery store, first new Walgreens, first new bank, first new credit union, is because I had somebody who knew the system and went to school with the people who did development. So he could pick up the phone. He got his master's at St. Louis University and say, hey, Dave, can you come and we need to talk to you? And I had a law degree, so we did it. But the ignorance that we had with Francis Slay as a mayor was to tear it up because he couldn't make me be quiet. Still can't make me be quiet. He's gone, I'm still back here. So I want to just caution people when they talk about this downtown being an economic engine, and most downtowns should be or are. But if you do it at the expense of another neighborhood, that's what you're going to hear from North St. Louis aldermen, is that you're not better than, I will give you your chance. You're not better than us. And if you don't know the full record, and I will email you back when I first got elected in 91, the Post-Dispatch, there's a Post-Dispatch, he's reporter, he did a whole story about how the city had taken the block grant money and all the other money and put it someplace else. And he's now in Chicago because I've been begging him to come back here and write some more about what they've been doing in the last 25 years. But I would like to send that to you so you can understand that people make decisions that adversely affect our community, and that then you don't know that. So you're just like, hey, I'm trying to protect downtown. But our whole agenda, mine always has been, we have to protect everybody. Okay, so I do like some of your statements, and some of your statements kind of step on my toes. And I really, yep, I'm going to send them to you. I have your email. I'm going to send you the things that he wrote back in 1991. He actually was writing a different story. And when he called me, I said, why don't you just break it down and show where the money was supposed to go, where the money actually went? And Vince Shamel called and cussed him all the way out because that was Vince as the mayor. But a lot of what you have downtown is because he made it happen. Freeman helped some. Clarence was really good for North St. Louis. People don't know that. And then when Francis came in there, that's all he thought about. So just letting you know that it wasn't that because North St. Louis couldn't grow, because they could. And all the things that I built are still in operation. But we don't have a hardware store right now. And those are all the things when we listen to you and talk about how important downtown, we also listen to our filter of living in North St. Louis and the things that we don't have. I was here when we built the hardware store on Kings Highway, across from where the tragedy happened. Geraldine Osborne and Marty Abusi built that hardware store. I would drive from North St. Louis all the way down to Home Depot up across Arsenal because I was just so proud we had a hardware store in the city. I grew up, I lived in South St. Louis for a lot of years, so I know when Penny's was there. I was there when Famous was at the corner. And so I wish that the people who were the mayor would have fought harder to keep those things, because I know South St. Louis intimately. I know you could drive down certain street and get to a South County Mall. So we have to protect North St. Louis, South St. Louis. The central quarter in downtown cannot be the only impetus. I do agree with you that it's as a business impetus. You do want it to grow. You want it to be an engine, but you also want to not make it grow so much at the expense of everybody else. Yes, sir. Now you can reply.
I agree with you, and thanks for a little bit of a history lesson. I'll read whatever you send me. We believe downtown's intrinsically, it's physically linked to North City. And Alderman Page knows that I was on a call with him a few days ago where we have a proposed economic development plan that specifically requests for more investment in North City, because unless we do that, we're going to continue to have poverty and crime directly north of downtown. So I agree with those statements. And I just want to be real clear that my belief is that these capital expenditures on these parking lots should come from the pockets of the parking lot operators, not.
And I like those statements.
Okay, I do not think that ARPA funds or annual city budget money should be subsidizing these parking lot operators, because we're doing okay.
Okay. All right. So I will send you some stuff. And like I said, I always, when they was doing Washington Street, my argument was always, if you think you're going to just put this party central down here, and that the people, not only, they don't just come from North St. Louis, because they come from St. Charles, St. Peter's, and all those people some party down there. And they break our rules and do things that if you go out into their community, I was here when we put Metrolink in. And St. Charles said, we don't want Metrolink because those people from the city will get on Metrolink and come and get and steal our TVs, which I just thought was ridiculous. Okay. So it's not just North City people. It is that people from the county. And it's because it's like to me, we put a attractive nuisance, like a pool. We put everything in one spot, the same thing they did in the Central West End. They used to close, I live close to Central West End. They would close off Euclid all the time for a lot of years to keep the young folks from coming there. And if they ever had a positive thought in their head, they would have said, we need to have entertainment districts all around the city so that other people in other neighborhoods can do the same thing. Because when you only have it in a certain number of spots, that's just gonna make everybody converge. So that is bad city planning to me. Okay. And I'm not against downtown. I just think that they have done it absolutely horrible. And I was here 11 times. They talk about giving that money back for that ill-advised car that we spent $58 million on the trolley. We have 11 times we had to give money back to the federal government because we spent the money illegally, one of them being the Chase Park Plaza. So I've been through all of that and just watched that. And then how I have had to beg, fight, and scream. And then when it's still 25 years later, everything I built is like, they're like, how is that? Because there's a Black working and middle class people that live in North St. Louis that have money to spend. And if we ever got a mayor with a brain, and yes, I said it, then that would have been what, and Vince was the one who believed in it. He actually started it. Clarence Harmon was really good at it, is that they believed that we should build North St. Louis, and we did under them. The other ones, not so much. Okay. So I like I said, I'm listening to all sides. I do hear if I'm a small owner, $100,000 is a lot, but can you do it in steps? I do hear what you said. I appreciate that you're willing to put your own money into it to fix up, and I thank you. Alderman Page had his hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just wanted to point out that Amy Gill is here with us now and is available to speak.
Okay. Alderman Vaccaro.
A real quick question, if I could ask of Alderman Page, if he'd answer a quick question.
Yes, I'll be happy to.
Okay, so you made a statement now, basically, if a parking lot throws a gate, a fence, and a camera up, they no longer need security, which is interesting because we'll have a lot of good video now of the cars being broke into. So it seems like this bill suggests more Big Brother with cameras and no, if you're saying, if I understood it correctly, you're saying this bill eliminates having paid security, which I think during these games, I mean, we got police and everything. I think that's really important. But my understanding in your statement is this bill eliminates it. So as long as a parking lot throws up a camera and a fence, they don't have to have security. So we'll just get a lot of good video which apparently we get now of car break-ins. Is that my understanding? This eliminates them having to have security?
It eliminates the requirement,
Cool.
but it does not by any means eliminate a parking lot owner or operator from having staff at their facility.
But it seemed like, so you have to have full-time staff there, but not security. I don't know what the difference is, but I just, when I heard that statement, I'm like, well, that's interesting. Throw a camera, a fence, and you're good to go. I guess I probably need to read into this better, but I was going off your statement that this takes out the requirement. And I just thought that was interesting. And I'm probably only going to be on here for another 5 or 10 minutes because I got to prepare for public safety.
Right.
So I just heard
Okay.
that. I was like, wow, what a deal.
Okay, so I'm gonna get the bill. We're gonna get the bill and make sure we understand it, okay, clearly. So Alderman Page, when I hear you say it's not required, but you could still do it, but it's not required if you have that, the fence and the protective entry and exit, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Waldron, because we still have a couple of more speakers, we're gonna have to move on because I'm also on public safety. So I have Miss Amy Gill here. I did see her. Did she leave? Okay. Hi, Miss Gill. How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Okay, you're with the Hotel St. Louis Slice Pint and other St. Louis properties, and you come here to appear in support of Board Bill 80?
Yes, I
You're
am.
you're recognized to testify. Thank you.
I would just like to say, we've been working on this bill. James has been working on this bill for over a year. And I know that there are people who are detractors, but every time they ask us to water the bill down, I feel like we water it down to such a point that it's ineffective. And I would like to ask the committee to please vote on this. I do feel like it is a good compromise for downtown. For example, I have a lot. We don't have an attendant because we have valet attendants at the front of the hotel. But when we started this, my lot was not fenced, and I saw the light that this was not helping downtown. We had break-ins on the lot all the time. We had all kinds of stuff going on. So we fenced our lot. Am I going to tell you that that is going to solve all of our problems? No. But I can tell you that it has solved 95% of my problems, and it has made people more comfortable to come to our hotel. It has made people more comfortable to come downtown and park. And I just feel like we need to have some sort of aldermanic pressure to make sure that downtown is safe for people to come down and they feel, I mean, like, I understand Alderman Vaccaro, well, you know, your employees need places to park. I totally get that, right? But do they want to be your employees if they have to come downtown and park and their cars get broken into all the time? And half the cars that get broken into aren't cars that have stuff in them. They're just broken into, and the people have to pay $1,000 for a new windshield or $1,000 for a new window for no reason. Like, they didn't leave stuff in their car, right? I mean, I don't have a lot of sympathy for the person who walks up to me and says, I left my computer and my handbag and all of my stuff in my car, and I'm so shocked that my car got broken into. But I do have sympathy for people who don't have anything in their car and their car still gets broken into. You know, and it's the same thing with the people who work for me. You know, we had people breaking into their cars, and on a personal level, my son told me he didn't want to work for me anymore because his car got broken into twice. He had to pay to put a new window in his car. You know, we have to do something. I think this is a nice middle of the road, gentle way to do this, to say, yes, your lots need to be fenced. No, we should not have cars doing donuts in the vacant lots downtown. No, we should not have cars that are, you know, feel like that they can drive up onto these lots and do all kinds of craziness, right? Your lot should be fenced. It should have a gate. If you're selling tickets at the ballpark, then, you know, you have a guy there and he takes the money, great, right? But when it's dark and nighttime and you don't have a ball game and it's the middle of winter and that lot is sitting vacant and derelict people are using it to do donuts and scare people and shoot out their car windows, this is just an easy way to make it happen. I know that there is a runway period that that Alderman Page has said will give people time to save money to put those gates and all of that stuff in. But look, I own a hotel. I owned the hotel during COVID and I put the fence up during COVID. If I can do it, having that situation, I feel like, you know, most of the people who own parking lots downtown can do it. So that's my statement.
Okay. Anybody on the committee have questions for Ms. Gill? Anybody not on the committee have questions for Ms. Gill? Okay, I do want to tell you, Ms. Gill, there's a famous video. You can go out on YouTube and probably see it. Grand and Natural Bridge, where Alderman Bosley represents. They blocked the whole street and did donuts up and down the street, up and down the street. So what I would wish people would do is that when they see that happen in North St. Louis, don't say, oh, that just happened in North St. Louis. Say they're going through the same pain we are, okay? That we don't want that either, and it's happening. And so if everybody was more empathetic and not just thinking I'm the most important thing, then I think we would have a better city. That's my suggestion, okay?
I agree.
All right, okay. So that is everybody except for Mr. Ware and Mr. Copeland. So Alderman Page, do you want them to testify now? Do you want them to come back for next week? It's up to you.
Well, I would offer this. Mr. Ware and Mr. Copeland have had opportunities to give testimony from time to time during the hearing. And they've answered questions, and they are city officials and are available given the lateness of the hour. And I too am on the Public Safety Committee. I would like to ask the two of them if they are available to testify at our next session.
Yes, sir. When will that be once again, please?
Right now, we're planning it for the following Wednesday, which will be
at 10
November 2nd.
Right.
At 10 a.m., same time.
I think I have an open calendar. Yes, sir.
Wonderful. If you don't mind, I'd love to have you back and to give your official testimony next week.
Yes, sir.
Okay, with that, is there anything else that we need to, there are no more people to testify. I don't believe there's anything else on the agenda. Is there anything that we need to bring up at the Streets Committee? I do want to congratulate one of our members who got married in the last few weeks while I was sick. So congratulations to the Alderwoman from. I've been married for Friday, 35 years, and David 13 years before that. So best wishes to both you and your new husband, and I wish you have a happy new life. And I do want to just say how sad I was about what happened at Arsenal and Kings Highway. I used to live, it was the 8th Ward. I don't know if it still is then. I lived on Clem between Magnolia and Shenandoah. So I lived a block from the Garden, a block from the Tower Grove Park, and went up there. At that time, it was a Shell gas station all the time to get gas. And that is just so painful to see that happening in our city. We've seen it happen in many other cities. I want to extend condolences to the people we lost and to the people's families who we lost, and just say how sorry I am to all the children that had to be terrorized, and we'll have to deal with that. I am so sorry. And I also want to thank our first responders, police officers. They showed people how to do it correctly, because within a few minutes of getting there, they took care of the situation. And so they really did a good job, and I want to thank them for the great job that they did.
Madam Chair, may I make a comment?
Sure.
That hit home here in the Building Division. The little girl that was killed is the granddaughter of one of our employees. So that was a very sad thing.
And they
so-
stay in the 27th ward.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear. I think you have a resolution that I'm gonna put my name on, but I just didn't want our committee to go back by without, making just some statement about it. I thought that it was not real at first, and I that's what I do every time I see it. I have been a proponent, my husband does this, of having guarded entrances so that you can't just get into a school. I've been a proponent of putting fencing around so that if you come over a fence, and it's not that I want our children to be in prison, but I do want safety. Everybody says, well, get the guns out of the hands. Okay, but that's not going to happen right away. But if we could make it safer, so if you come over a fence, that triggers alarm. If we can have guarded entrances, and I believe it's out in Hazelwood, they have done a bond issue. So when you can't come into their school building without, you have to go through some kind of pocket lock, a door, not pocket doors, but doors, and then you have to be buzzed in. And then I think you have another step. We have to save and protect our young folks. And it is a long-term terrorism when you go into a school and you shoot the school up and you terrorize the children there. And then I just want to say that young man, when I read the note he left, I wish we would have had some kind of social services to address his loneliness, because I'm not feeling, what he did is perfectly wrong, but I felt sad for him too. So this was just a sad day in the city of St. Louis. And I'm sorry for the building employees' granddaughter and for that family. But as I said, I want to say that the first responders did a great job in getting there and putting that fire out. And I want to thank them. Is there anybody else who has anything to say? Okay, at this time, I do a motion that we adjourn until next Wednesday. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The street committee is adjourned. Thank you so much.